So this is going to be the first of two videos I'm going to do on the Suicide Squad today. This will be a spoiler video, and the second video is going to be kind of an analysis video of why this movie didn't perform as well as expected. So, welcome to my spoiler review of The Suicide Squad. I hope you saw the movie however you can. If you were willing and brave enough to go to the theater or watch it on HBO Max, I just hope you saw this movie because this movie's a lot of fun. I already saw it twice. So let's just dive right into it, because there's a lot I kind of wanted to talk about with this movie, and I couldn't do it without giving away spoilers. So let's do that. So at first I didn't know if I was going to like this movie at first, because the opening scene kind of crosses a line for me. Because I'm usually someone who doesn't mind dark humor. I will laugh at almost anything unless there's it's a line that crossed, and they kind of crossed it for me personally in the first scene. Kind of see it they're playing Johnny Cash, and Michael Rooker's in his jail cell. He's playing with his toy, and all of a sudden he's doing that thing where he's throws it to the wall, and he catches it, and then he sees a bird, and all of a sudden it's he throws it and it kills the bird. And I'm like, because to me, animal cruelty, that's one of the lines that it crosses some lines for me. I just can't stand that, no matter what, even especially if it's for comedic purposes. It just felt unnecessary. And I get it, because this is it's a James Gunn movie, so we shouldn't be surprised. And it's more shocking. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more violent than the PG-13 movie. So, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. The other reason why I didn't think I was going to like this movie at first is because the opening action scene where they're all going to the beach and going to the new island or whatever that is, and they get ambushed, and Pete Davidson's hey, I brought you guys, and Pete Davidson's immediately killed. Yeah, they basically kill everyone at the beginning except for Rick Flag and Harley Quinn, and we'll talk about them definitely. Because oh, it's going to be really cool to see all these characters again, and most of them are killed. Javelin's killed, TDK is killed. I didn't even know Nathan Fillion played TDK until I saw the end credits. Nathan Fillion was that character? Okay. But again, most of them just died, and I'm just why? What's the point of that? I mean, I guess I can't really be too mad, because, they weren't really in the promotions for this movie, so it's I can't really complain. We didn't get to see a lot of them. Oh well. And, you see, because of the chip that is implanted into all of them, and Michael Rooker, he decides to desert everyone, and so Amanda Waller's hey, turn around, or else we'll detonate that thing in your head. And they do, and a bird comes in and actually eats part of his brain, and swallows it, and I'm that still doesn't make up for the whole, you killing a bird in the previous scene. But oh well. So I didn't know if I was going to like this movie at first because of those scenes, because, one, that opening scene was it crosses the line, and two, because it's we did this already. We killed a bunch of people in the first Suicide Squad movie without really giving them proper introductions. And they kind of just do the same thing here, and I'm just why? It just didn't work for me. So, I was kind of disappointed at first with that, but I'm just glad the rest of the movie was so good it kind of made up for that scene. So let's just kind of, dive right into it. So, let's talk about Harley Quinn. Now, honestly, I think Margot Robbie's performance as Harley Quinn is just getting better. Her storylines, however, her storyline in this movie is not necessarily that great. She's one of the only ones to survive in this movie, and she has the Javelin from Javelin, who was played by Fulo Borg. And she's trying to find out, what's the purpose of this, and you'll later see at the end. So in this movie, she's kidnapped at one point because she's Harley Quinn, at least this version of Harley Quinn. I know there's a bunch of different versions of it. And in this one, she's kidnapped by the main villains of this movie, kind of, and she is essentially betrothed to marry this one guy who's part of the whole scheme. And then, she has this whole, again, Marilyn Monroe moment. And, it ends up feeling like Stockholm Syndrome a bit at first. And then, when he reveals his big plan for the big operation that they're trying to stop, she's no, I'm going to shoot this guy because killing children is bad. And I'm you crossed the line when Harley Quinn thinks you're doing something bad. This is the woman who's with Joker for a lot. That may be bad to say. I'm sorry. But I don't know. I just didn't think the storyline was that great. It's they really couldn't figure out what to do with her for the majority of the movie. Almost everyone else in this movie I thought was really good. Even Margot Robbie's performance as Harley Quinn is good. It's just her storyline, I don't really care for, to be honest. Although I did dig the action scene where she's like finally escaping them, and it's like she like sings that one song at first, and then she gets out using her toes to grab the key to unlock herself. And then when she has like that big fight and all the blood just suddenly just starts turning into flowers, I thought that was really cool. There's a lot of great action scenes in this movie. Some really well done. Even that whole killing contest thing, which I kind of mixed feelings about that. It's like, oh, that's really clever and funny. And then when you find out like who the Suicide Squad was killing in those scenes, it's like, you kind of just feel dirty after a while. And again, that's just the James Gunn thing, I guess. So let's also talk about some of the other storylines in this movie. Ratcatcher 2, she has the power to control rats. It was taught by her dad, played by Taika Waititi. And they say that she was the heart and soul of this movie, and I actually do agree. I thought she was really good. She was one of my favorites in this movie. She was very understanding. You could clearly tell like that she went through trauma, that she's like trying to learn from like the world and trying to make it better, and it feels genuine. And like her dad, again, Taika Waititi, he has a brief performance in this movie, and he was also really good in his brief scene as well. It's a flashback about how, rats are viewed as disgusting, but we can do something better with this. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of a nice message for a movie this violent, so why not? Also, let's talk about Peacemaker, played by John Cena. His performance is fine. His jokes really didn't land for me. I think he was like the least funniest of all of them. But he essentially betrays the Suicide Squad at one point, and it just didn't work for me. I kind of hated him afterwards, and he's the one who's getting the show, not Ratcatcher 2 or Polka Dot Man, but we'll talk about Polka Dot Man. I didn't really care for that, and although I did like the fight between Rick Flag and Peacemaker, though, Rick Flag, I thought he was actually better here than he was in the first movie. He's definitely a lot more... Joel Kinnaman has a lot more free reign in this movie than he did in the first movie, and I think he's allowed to like be funnier, be a lot more, I don't want to say aggressive, but more like, he definitely has a lot more to him than he did in the first movie. And there was the big fight where they had this flash drive and Rick Flag wants it and basically, expose the truth about what the whole operation is. Meanwhile, John Cena's Peacemaker is like, no, this is our mission. We got to do this. And so they have this big fight, and Peacemaker actually kills Rick Flag. We actually see his heart start bleeding, and Joel Kinnaman's about to pass out, and he's like, Peacemaker, what a joke. That was tragic, and that was actually it was tragic. It was well done. Although I didn't really need to see the heart bleeding. Again, James Gunn. So... also, let's talk about Bloodsport. Now, when Idris Elba was cast, I heard there were rumors that he was going to be like a new Deathstroke, no, not Deathstroke, Deadshot or whatever. The Will Smith character from the first Suicide Squad movie. And since Will Smith didn't return and Idris Elba came in, they was like, okay, we'll make you Deadshot in this one. No, we're going to make you Bloodsport instead, because these are all characters that no one's heard about. And at first it kind of took me a while to get into his story, because like... it's basically the same thing as Deadshot's story. Like, he's doing this for his daughter. He wants to see his daughter. And it's just the same thing. It just didn't really interest me. It's like, this was clearly supposed to have Deadshot in it, wasn't it? But, oh well. Idris Elba's really cool in the movie. And, like, there's that scene where Idris Elba, like, where that building starts collapsing and he's just, like, falls down, and then eventually he kills Peacemaker and the whole thing to save Ratcatcher 2. That was pretty cool. Again, there's a lot of great action scenes in this movie. Also, like, the big scene with, like... I'll get to that, actually. Not now. So let's talk about Polka Dot Man. Polka Dot Man, I actually really liked his performance. I liked his character. He had a very interesting story about how his mother performed tests on him. And basically, he kind of just sees everyone as his mother, which was very creepy, very disturbing at times. It got a lot of people laughing in the theater, I'll tell you that. I really like the way they use his powers throughout the entire movie. He's like, oh god, sounds like a ridiculous villain. And it's like, oh, that's what he does with it. And it's actually really cool. He actually could have taken a lot of people by himself, but no, they didn't. And of all the characters, and of all the characters in the Suicide Squad, I'm like, I kind of want to see Polka Dot Man more. I want to see him a lot more. I want him to have his own show instead of Peacemaker. That would be really cool. And then Polka Dot Man is killed. Starro just steps on him. And it's like, oh, well, that's dumb. I would have kept him. He was awesome. No. Also, let's talk about Starro, the main creature in this one. Instead of a beam in the sky, they have to fight a giant Patrick Star-looking creature. He has a giant eye, and basically he has all these, he can, open his armpit, and, smaller versions of him can come out. And they basically just attach to people's faces, except for the Suicide Squad, because they're the heroes of this movie. And, I don't know, it's kind of weird because they have a lot of civilian deaths in this one. Because of that, it's like, oh, well, they're basically dead. That thing on your face, yeah, you're dead. That they kind of just say that, oh, they're dead. But anyway, I thought he looked really cool. I thought the visuals on him looked incredible. They were creepy. They were disgusting. They were really fun to see. I don't know. I also find it odd, the whole, that's what Harley Quinn uses the javelin for. She takes the javelin, jumps off, cuts his eye, and is swimming in his eye. I'm like, I mean, okay, whatever you can to take him down. Obviously, this is not supposed to be logical. Also, a bunch of the rats that Ratcatcher 2 was summoning to basically destroy him. Yeah, that was pretty fun. That was an interesting way to take him down. But all the rats just start jumping into the eye and just start eating away. It's like, okay, we get it. We didn't need to go this far. But then again, it's James Gunn, so what do you expect? As far as the rebels, they're led by Alice Braga in this movie. Yeah, they were just entirely pointless. The whole subplot about the people of that country is honestly just pointless. I should have mentioned that in my non-spoiler review. But, those characters are just pointless throughout the entire movie. Even the rebels, all led by Alice Braga. Again, most of them are just killed by the Suicide Squad unnecessarily. So, and all you know is, oh, she knows Rick Flag. That's all you really need to know. And then you occasionally see them. They pop up from time to time. And, yeah, they do nothing other than, just kind of, criticize the Suicide Squad for being idiots and just... And then at the end, you see them, they're taking over. So, yay, I guess. But again, we didn't really get to know anyone in those scenes. Oh, well. And also, let's talk about King Shark. I forgot to mention him. King Shark, Sylvester Stallone did the job really well. I thought he was really good. I thought he was more of a distraction more than anything. He was a comic relief in a movie that's kind of full of a bunch of comic reliefs. So I just didn't... I felt like his storyline didn't matter too much, to be honest. He didn't really have a storyline. He was just there to be the animal creature because we don't have Killer Croc anymore. And some of it worked. A lot of his jokes worked. Hand, or him reading the book upside down. Those were funny. Sometimes it was just random. The whole subplot he has at one point where he meets a bunch of fish and he wants to be their friend, and then it turns out they're like piranhas and they want to eat them. So it's like, oh, okay, well, that was pointless. Also, Amanda Waller and her crew. Now, I thought Viola Davis here was a lot better than she was in the first Suicide Squad. Definitely a lot more ruthless, definitely a lot scarier. I wouldn't want to cross paths with her. And her team, I thought, were doing a really good job as well. There was that scene where it's okay, who's going to die? We're all going to bet on who's going to die in this. And I thought that was pretty funny. As far as what they do with her character at the end, I feel mixed about that. It's at what point did any of them think that they should cross her like that? And how they could just knock her out, basically go against her orders. And she just keeps them on. Although there's a glaring glance at her team, she glares at her team afterwards. And it's is she going to get revenge on them? Who knows? I don't know how to feel about that. I get what they were trying to do is we're going against orders here. They're gonna be the heroes actually. I don't know if I would have done it that way though. But oh well. Again, I think the action scenes really save this movie. They're very fun. They're very creative, even if they are a little poor taste at times, like the killing contest one. like the Harley Quinn one, the fight with Starro. A lot of scenes are really cool, and like how Ratcatcher 2 summons all these rats to basically just take out Starro, and they cover everything, including Bloodsport, who's afraid of rats throughout this entire movie. That's one of his quirks. It works. It's a really fun movie. It's a really funny movie. I may have a few problems with like where it kind of crosses the line a bit, but other than that, I do think the Suicide Squad is not only an improvement on the first one, but it's a really good time. It's a really fun time to watch at the theater, watch on HBO Max. Just see this movie at some points, even if sometimes it can be a little it can go too far at times, but should have expected that from James Gunn, I guess. So those are kind of some of my thoughts on the Suicide Squad with spoilers. What did you think of it? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.